When I left the Brotherhood, they told me very specifically, this is something that the highest people in that organization do not want revealed because it's probably the single easiest thing that they can do to control the masses, which is exactly why I'm revealing it. There's two parts of the brain that when I was in the Brotherhood, we spent a lot of time on as a critical aspect to being able to control our mind, create, attract, or manifest what we wanted, to control others, to tap into the universal consciousness, sometimes called the ether, which, by the way, Edison said he did. Oh, and somebody I know that you respect, Albert Einstein. He was a mathematician, and he said he tapped into the ether, which is a field of universal knowledge, past, present, and future. The two parts of the brain that are critical to making that happen are the hippocampus, it's a gland in the brain, and the pineal gland. These two glands have to be active. And here's the interesting research. If you take 100 billionaires and look at the size of their hippocampus, it's 40 to 50% bigger than people who are making 100 grand a year. Fact. If you look at the activity of their hippocampus, it's almost twice as active as people making 100 grand a year. Fact. That's a critical part. And then the pineal gland, if you look at people that are making 50 or 100 grand a year, almost all of them, it's calcified, which means it's completely covered and it's not active at all. But if you look at spiritually enlightened beings, we'll call it maybe an Indian guru, or somebody that can tap into the ether and create, like a Stephen Jobs or an Elon Musk. Look, these are pretty intelligent, creative guys. And you look, their pineal gland is not calcified at all. They're tapping into a universal field of consciousness. Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, they were not. Henry Ford, their pineal gland was not calcified. But the average person's is. This is something that the privileged elite know, that if they can just basically calcify your pineal gland, they're going to keep you dumbed down. They're going to be able to control you. If they can keep the size and activity of your hippocampus small, they can control you. It's like giving you saltpeter to that horny guy on the ship back in the 1500s who hasn't seen a woman in 6 months and it keeps getting an erection. And you give him saltpeter and he loses all of his ability and sexual drive. That's what affects a person, the pineal gland and the hippocampus. So we learned a lot about this. We spent a lot of time. This was probably one of the biggest secrets because it was biological. This was really science at the highest level. It wasn't esoteric. It was real simple. What nutrients do we take? What do we avoid to make sure that the pineal gland is active and it doesn't get calcified? And what mental exercises can we do to increase the size of the hippocampus? Now, some people by birth, because of their bloodline and their genes, the hippocampus is just really big. Other people, it isn't. In my particular case, it was above average, but it wasn't as big as some of the other people in the Brotherhood. So I had to learn how to stimulate that and increase the growth, which I did in a very short period of time. And in the Brotherhood, my particular hippocampus became incredibly large and very, very active because we would actually rate ourselves with others so we could see not only the improvement in ourselves, but how we were in comparison to the other people in our organization. So those are two things which I can say today, the elites don't want people to know about. And when I left the Brotherhood, and I told Henry Kissinger and Mikhail Gorbachev, who were members as well, that I was leaving, they were wishing me well, but they told me very specifically, this is something that the highest people in that organization do not want revealed because it's probably the single easiest thing that they can do to control the masses. And by educating people on this particular area, you're making it more difficult for the privileged elite to control the masses, which is exactly why I'm revealing it, so that people can be empowered if they choose.
What is the one thing an average person can do to increase their hippocampus?
There isn't one thing that the average person can do to increase the size and activity of the hippocampus. There is not one thing. There's 30 things, and that's what I do now. I'm actually teaching people all 30 ingredients, if you will, that will do exactly that and stimulate the pineal gland and make sure that's active so you can tap into the ether, which is effectively opening up your third eye or becoming very in tune, you could say. I don't want to say psychic, but in tune. So there's 30 basic things that a person can do, one of which is reading, as simply as reading. Because today, how many people actually read? Very few. But if we notice that leaders are always readers, they actually read books. They sit, they concentrate, and they read. But the privileged elite class don't want you to do that. You know what they want you to do? They want you to scroll on all of your social media feeds and get all these dopamine hits. Because this is doing the exact opposite. It's shrinking the hippocampus. Oh, this is great. I can get you addicted to porn. I can get you addicted to social media. And because you're addicted, you can't stop. And those activities are shrinking your hippocampus, making you less powerful. It's making you smaller as a being. And if I'm a privileged elite class member, this is great. It's like giving you opium. Now I can tell you to do anything by going on television and say the White House says this, or have some idiot on the Friday evening news say this, and you just go, yes, I will stay in my house and not leave until they tell me, yes, master, yes.
Is the food industry, what we eat, contributing to this?
The food industry is not contributing. The controlling elite class use the food industry, just like they use the pharmaceutical industry. People say, oh, this company is, Monsanto is bad. Monsanto is a company. The company can't be bad. The people, look, do you know anybody that works for Monsanto or Pfizer or a drug company or food company? And are every one of them going to satanic meetings every night? No, come on. These are nice people. They're our friends and relatives and neighbors, and they go to church. And a lot of these scientists and people that work in these companies are really good people and really nice people and really believe that what they're doing is helpful to mankind. Where's the evilness? Well, the evilness is not even in the company per se, but the higher you go up, then you get greed, because people are now thinking, how much money can I make on the stock? And we look at a perfect example of this. Ford Motor Company. They had the exploding Pinto. A lot of people don't remember this, but there was a car called the Pinto. And if you slammed into the back of the Pinto, on occasion, the gas tank, which was right there, exploded and the people died or got horribly burned. Tragic. Well, dozens of Pintos exploded and people were dying. And the truth that came out, the absolute truth, was the engineers knew before a single Pinto exploded. They went to the board of directors of Ford Motor Company and said, we have a problem. We have a car that's virtually going to kill 3,000 people next year. 3,000 human beings are going to die horrible deaths in horrific fires in our car called the Pinto because we have an engineering flaw. We have to do a recall. And you know what the board did? The board said, we all own stock, guys. They were all guys. We all own stock, guys, in the company. Let's do an analysis. If we do a recall and announce it, how much is it going to cost the company? And what's that going to do to the stock price? It's going to crash by 50%. If we do nothing and we settle with all 3,000 people, giving them $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 million each to the families, how much will it cost the company and what will it affect the stock price? Well, there's no comparison. It'll cost the company less and the stock price won't tank. And you know what the response was in the meeting? Fuck them, let them die. That's exactly what was said at that meeting. And I know I wasn't physically there, but I had a good friend who was there, who came to me right after that meeting when it happened. And he's in the Brotherhood. And he said, "This is what it's about, KT. Are you ready for the journey? Because this is who we're dealing with. These are the type of people." So what happens is, it's not a company that's bad, and it's not the majority of people in the companies. It's some people that are so greedy, and it's all about money. They love money and they use people instead of using money and loving people. This is why the food industry is being used to reduce the size of a hippocampus and its activity, as well as the pineal gland. The drug company, the water supply is being flooded with fluoride, and other chemicals are being just flooded into our water supply, and it's illegal all over the world. Food dyes are being put in, high fructose corn syrup, genetically modified food. These things are known to reduce the size of the hippocampus and calcify the pineal gland, dumbing you down, reducing your IQ, reducing your drive, motivation, inspiration, basically making you an easy slave.